Okay, let's unpack this. It seems like everywhere you look, the discussion around energy is heating up, literally and figuratively. And one energy source, often seen as controversial, maybe even in retreat for a while, is making a dramatic comeback: nuclear power.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how quickly the sentiment has turned. It's driven by a whole confluence of global factors. Today, we're taking a deep dive into this resurgence and specifically looking at a company, Cameco, which sits right at the heart of the nuclear fuel cycle.
Right. Our goal here is to cut through the noise, look at the evidence from our sources, and give you a clear understanding. Why is nuclear back? What's driving it? And how are companies like Cameco positioned in this, well, evolving landscape? Think of it as your shortcut to being well-informed on this really pivotal topic. So let's think back a bit. Remember the years after Fukushima in 2011? It really felt like a global retreat from nuclear. Lots of countries decommissioning plants, stopping new builds. The whole narrative was caution, maybe even skepticism. But now our sources show a really dramatic turnaround is underway. What's the most striking evidence of this shift? What's fundamentally changed the strategic thinking here?
You framed that perfectly. The tides have truly turned. It's undeniable. Our sources point to something pretty significant. 31 countries have now formally pledged to triple their nuclear power capacity by 2050. And this isn't just talk, you know. It reflects a fundamental change in how countries are thinking strategically, moving away decisively from that post-Fukushima hesitation towards, well, a proactive embrace of nuclear. It's really becoming a cornerstone for future energy, like a global consensus forming.
That is a powerful shift. So based on our sources, what are the biggest forces driving this huge pivot back towards nuclear right now? What are the needs, the demands that are making nuclear look like a best bet again?
Well, there are three main drivers that really jump out from the research. First, energy security. That's a big one. We've seen rising geopolitical tensions, right, like Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It starkly showed the vulnerabilities of relying on, well, external and often unpredictable fuel sources. So countries are now prioritizing less volatile, more secure energy supplies, things they can control domestically. Nuclear power, once it's built, offers exactly that: stable, baseload power. It cuts reliance on imported fossil fuels. So it's emerging as a top contender for achieving that kind of energy independence. It's about resilience, not just cost.
That makes a lot of sense. Geopolitics definitely changed the energy math. Okay, what's the second big driver our sources point to?
The second is the absolutely insatiable and growing power demands of the modern world, particularly the explosion of artificial intelligence, AI, and its massive energy-hungry data centers. What's really interesting here, and our sources highlight this, is that while solar and wind are great, they're intermittent. AI compute farms need unwavering 247 baseload power. It's non-negotiable for them. They can't tolerate dips. And nuclear uniquely delivers that high-density, constant, always-on power. That makes it not just a clean option, but maybe the only viable clean option for these huge operations. AI isn't just growing, it's fundamentally reshaping global energy demand, and nuclear is looking like a critical part of the answer.
That's a key distinction. The reliability that AI demands, not just the sheer amount of power.
Got it.
And the third key factor.
Yep. The third, and this is interesting given the history, is nuclear's growing recognition as a low-carbon, clean source of energy. Despite those historical concerns about waste and safety, many now see it as potentially our best bet. To meet those soaring power demands over the next decade while tackling climate objectives, it's a powerful tool, maybe indispensable, in the decarbonization toolkit. You know, the climate crisis needs everything we've got, and nuclear's emission-free generation is a massive plus.
Right. So this isn't just talk. Our sources show this momentum is turning into real action globally. Can you give us some concrete examples? Where are we seeing this nuclear renaissance actually playing out?
Absolutely. It's happening in different ways around the world. China, for instance, is really leading the charge in new nuclear builds. They have a lot under construction. But it's not just new plants. Lots of existing reactors are being saved from early retirement. We're seeing life extensions pushing some U.S. reactor lives out to, believe it or not, 80 years. That shows a real commitment to maximizing the infrastructure we already have. It's often much cheaper than building new.
80 years is incredible. And in the U.S. politically, there seems to be a strong push too. What's the ambition there?
Yeah, the U.S. policy signals are pretty strong. Our sources mention, for example, that former President Trump signed executive orders, the AIM, to quadruple nuclear energy capacity, up to 400 gigawatts electric, or GW, by 2050. That's a huge target. And it came with a goal: 10 large-scale reactors under construction by 2030. Just one large reactor can power millions of homes, so 10 under construction. That's an immense undertaking. It signals a clear plan to make nuclear a cornerstone again, a massive investment.
Okay, so big traditional reactors are part of it, but there's also a lot of buzz around these small modular reactors, SMRs. They seem different. What's the story there? What's their promise?
That's another really exciting development, the SMRs. Though it's still relatively early days for the technology, but interest is definitely growing, and for good reasons. Our sources show their promise lies in a few areas. They're not just smaller. Their modular design means potentially faster and cheaper construction. You can manufacture components elsewhere and assemble them on site. Plus, many designs have enhanced safety features, often passive ones, relying on natural forces like gravity for cooling, not active systems. That builds in larger safety margins. And this flexibility makes them potentially ideal for different uses, like industrial sites, remote mines, off-grid communities, even defense facilities. Their smaller size means they can go places large plants can't. It opens up new markets for nuclear, potentially a quicker path to getting new capacity online.
So it's a comeback on multiple fronts. But who's actually putting money into this? Beyond governments, are big commercial players buying in, putting their money where their mouth is?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just government policy driving this. The private sector is heavily involved. Our sources show all the major hyperscalers think Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Oracle, they're all active. They're expanding power purchase agreements with nuclear providers. Some are making direct investments in SMRs. They see their data centers, these huge compute factories fueled by AI, needing massive, reliable, clean power. Power that the traditional grid often struggles to deliver consistently or sustainably, frankly. A tiny power flicker can cost millions for a data center. So nuclear is increasingly seen as the solution to secure their own critical energy needs. That's a huge signal from the tech industry. It's becoming a commercial necessity.
Okay, so that sets the stage. In this landscape of renewed and accelerating nuclear interest,
Yeah.
where does a company like Cameco fit in? Our sources suggest it's, well, a pretty big deal. How do their assets position them in this whole value chain?
Cameco is definitely a central player here. You could say a critical piece of the puzzle. Our sources position it as one of the largest uranium producers globally, period. Just to give you a sense of scale, and the market's view, its market cap is currently around $33 billion. And investor optimism, you can see it in the stock. It's surged, 46% year to date? This shows Cameco isn't just watching the trend. It's a foundational company, deeply embedded across the supply chain, already wielding influence.
$33 billion is substantial. But it's the assets behind that number that really matter, right? Can you walk us through those? Because it's way more than just one mine, isn't it?
Not at all. Their portfolio is really robust and it's strategically integrated. It covers key stages from digging it up to processing. Let's start with mining. Cameco holds a 70% majority stake in McArthur River in Saskatchewan, Canada. It's described as the world's largest high-grade uranium mine. That's key. Estimated reserves. 251 million pounds of uranium. And a mine life projected out to 2044. Controlling high-grade, long-life assets like that is incredibly important. High-grade means lower production costs, a real competitive edge, especially when demand rises.
McArthur River is a huge anchor then. What else is in the mining portfolio?
Then there's Cigar Lake, also in Saskatchewan, another high-grade mine. Cameco has a 55% stake there. That adds another estimated 105.2 million pounds of reserves, with a mine life expected until 2036. And they're global, too. They hold a 40% interest in a joint venture, Inkai, in Kazakhstan. That brings in another estimated share of 100.4 million pounds of reserves, mine life to 2045. So taken together, these are massive long-duration assets, giving Cameco significant control over a big chunk of global uranium supply.
Okay, so they have the raw materials locked down with these huge reserves. But you mentioned getting it out is just step one. They're also involved in processing it.
Exactly. They're vertically integrated, as they say. Cameco has an 83% stake in the Key Lake uranium mill. This facility is crucial. It takes the raw ore from the mines and processes it, extracts and concentrates the uranium. This step creates the usable product, the yellow cake, needed for the next stages of making fuel. So they're involved right from the start, getting that fuel to market reliably.
But it doesn't stop there.
Right.
Our sources show they're also involved on the technology side, reaching further down the chain towards power generation itself. How does that work?
Right. This is where their strategic partnership with Westinghouse Electric fits in. It's a major move. Cameco owns a 49% interest in Westinghouse, alongside Brookfield Renewable Partners. And Westinghouse, it's not just any company. It's a critical nuclear reactor technology, OEM, original equipment manufacturer. They provide products and services globally to utilities, to governments, indispensable for running nuclear plants safely and efficiently. Their reactor designs power a huge portion of the world's nuclear fleet.
What kind of services make Westinghouse so vital? What do they actually do?
They provide a whole range of essential stuff: complex outage and maintenance work, engineering support, vital instrumentation, and controls equipment, plant modifications, supplying components and parts, you name it. And beyond that, they're critical in the fuel cycle itself, designing and making fuel for light water reactors. And our sources highlight something cutting edge here. Westinghouse is the only fully European supplier certified for VVER fuel assemblies. That's the water-water energetic reactor design common in Eastern Europe. And these aren't just replacements. They offer real tech improvements: enhanced safety, longer fuel cycles, better efficiency, less downtime. That leadership in advanced fuel is a big strategic plus.
That really is comprehensive integration across the whole chain. So let's bring this back to you, our listener. What does all this mean? Cameco's strategy, its assets, contracts, even its financials. What does it tell us about the bigger picture of this nuclear resurgence?
Well, if you connect the dots, Cameco's situation is almost like a miniature version, a microcosm of the whole nuclear comeback. It shows the opportunity, but also the strategic depth needed. They aren't just riding a wave. They've built their operations to capitalize on it. Securing long-term contracts is key here. Our sources show they're committed to delivering about 28 million pounds of uranium per year, on average, from 2025 through 2029. That strategy does two things. It protects them if the market dips short-term, providing stable revenue, but it also lets them benefit from price increases as global demand keeps growing. It's a smart balance, gives them a strong competitive position.
And the market seems to agree, given that stock surge. Our sources do note the stock looks relatively expensive, like 58.5 times this year's projected earnings per share of $1.28. But there's also significant projected earnings growth behind that. What did those numbers really signal? Sometimes a high valuation tells a story.
That's a really important point. The takeaway isn't just the current price or the PE ratio, it's the market's conviction about the future. A conviction in a dramatic, sustained structural shift for nuclear power and uranium. The numbers are pretty stark. Earnings projected up 389% on a GAAP basis this year. Analysts seen another 25.9% growth in 2026, 17.5% in 2027. That's not just small growth, it's like a whole re-rating of the sector. Investors are essentially betting that uranium supply, which hasn't seen much investment for years, will struggle to meet this surging demand. Demand from new reactors, SMRs, and that AI boom. And Cameco, with its existing long-life, high-grade assets, is perfectly positioned. It has that strategic advantage. So while the article suggests maybe waiting for the valuation to cool off, the underlying forces, the tailwinds for uranium miners like Cameco, they're clearly very strong. It paints a picture of an industry entering a long period of, well, increased importance and scarcity value.
Okay, so we've unpacked quite a bit. How energy security worries, AI's massive power needs, and climate goals are driving this undeniable global nuclear comeback. And we've looked closely at Cameco, its huge mining assets, key processing facilities, and that strategic Westinghouse partnership, making it a foundational player from the ground up to the reactor itself.
Yeah, and understanding these shifts is really vital because they're reshaping more than just energy markets. They're influencing international policy, tech development, even geopolitics. This isn't just about one company or one commodity. It's a global energy pivot with really far-reaching consequences. Definitely something to keep watching closely.
So considering this unique convergence, energy security, AI demand, climate goals, all pushing nuclear forward, and with key players like Cameco consolidating critical parts of the supply chain, what new dynamics might emerge? Could the quest for nuclear independence inadvertently create new geopolitical dependencies, maybe on different resources or strategic partners? And how should we start thinking about those next generation challenges?